Hey guys, today I just want to go over what does it look like trying to find parts and like putting a build together. We'll try this out. Maybe we'll make more of them, about different subjects or whatever. But I really just kind of want to like go through some of the processes of like how to pick parts, like what it takes with the 7.3 to get to, to a certain goal. And so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and jump on our website 1023s.com here, and we'll start picking out parts. So let me expand this a little bit, make it easier to see. Actually, maybe be able to go a little bit more than that. It's gonna be a little blown up there, but I want to make sure you guys can see it. So we'll zoom way in. So when you're going to look for parts, the things to know about when it comes to building a 7.3 is you're either going to have an idea and you're going to have a little bit of the budget's going to be secondary. You're going to know, like, I want these injectors, I want this turbo, or I want to make this power goal. And then you'll build it over time as budget allows, or you'll have a budget in mind, and then you'll pick your parts based on the budget. So there's kind of two ways to go about it. But one of the things to always keep in mind is fuel. The way to look at injectors versus turbos is that fuel is ultimately what determines how much power you're going to be capable of making. And then your turbo is going to determine how usable that power is going to be and where that power is going to be usable. So let's give an example. If you had, 250, 100 injectors, and you put that on a stock turbo. Well, stock injectors on a stock turbo will probably make about 300 horsepower. On a stock turbo, you could probably eke out, mid 400s with just crazy amounts of smoke and insane EGTs and insane back pressure and everything else. I imagine it would be possible. But that's not efficient. But you take those same injectors, you tune them to significantly less pulse, probably quite a lot less timing, to make 450 horsepower with, say, like a Borg Warner, S366 SXE, or S369 or S372. And you've got a setup that'll make 450 horsepower with very little EGT problems, tow pretty nicely, and has the headroom to go even further. You can turn it up even more. So I guess that's where we want to pick injectors. I like to say I like to pick injectors first. I want to pick injectors that'll get me in the power realm that I want to be in, and then once I determine what that power is, what I really want. And then the second thing is going to be picking a turbo that's going to give me the driving characteristics that I want for, whether that be, high altitude or for towing or, just generally you like playing and that's the thing you're most concerned about. Also, it's probably pretty small when you're looking at it, but that's not how I would normally put a computer together, but the case broke and so it's sitting on top of the motherboard box right now. So anyway, don't worry about what's going on back there. So we're just on 1023s.com right here. Lots of places you can buy parts from. Obviously, this is our store, so this is going to be what I'm most familiar with. And generally, we do offer most of the parts that are worth getting for most people for 7.3s. So one of the things that we've done is, and you can go in here just from the home page, you can select your year, and then we have our power packages. So let's just jump on the OBS power packages here, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. Basically, what we've done is with the power packages on the lower end, we've found what generally are the base parts you would want to get to a certain goal, and then included them in a package where it saves a little bit of money. So let's go ahead with the stage 1 package. This would be this is for let's scroll down here. So this is for stage 1 injectors. You can actually pick unlimited or full force now. A Hydra for tuning, 30-day revision support pack. So that's 30-day support on your tuning, and then free shipping. And that's what the base of the kit is. And so this is on a stock OBS truck. You're just looking to replace your injectors. Stage ones are fantastic. They'll work on a stock. They'll work on a stock turbo. They'll work on a stock fuel system. They'll work on a stock high pressure oil pump. They'll even work on a stock trucks. You could literally just drop stage ones in, which is like the 160-0, and run it, and it'll work great. But they're capable of making way, way, way more than the stock injectors are capable of. So generally on stock injectors with an OBS truck, and I think that's written down here too, they'll make about, on stock tuning, everything, they'll make about 150 horsepower to the ground. With stage one injectors, generally we're going to get the 300 to 350 horsepower range. On a stock OBS truck with these injectors and just tuning, probably like 300 horsepower would be around what I would consider the top end. You probably end up dropping like fuel pressure or ICP. Definitely would smoke a clutch before that on a manual. But a stock transmission, if it's stock this late in life, it probably is going to need rebuilt anyway. If it's healthy, you can usually get away with just running like a shift kit. So some sort of like accumulator body would generally keep it alive a while. If it's healthy, you can always do like a valve body or a shift kit along with a torque converter. And that would hold up pretty good for the most part. But all that's described on the power packages here. But I just kind of want to go over it, visually. But another thing we did was we made it so you can kind of choose, configure it to a better setup if you wanted to. So right here, we have the option where you can add like I-Rate Diesel's e-fuel kit. Again, there's other fuel system options out there. To get the most out of even stage ones, you are probably going to need to get some sort of electric fuel system. So just keep that in mind. But like in our case, you can just add them here. The KC balanced assembly is a nice upgrade if you want to keep the stock turbo and keep it on the cheap. It's basically just a KC Turbo's billet compressor wheel with their S300 turbine wheel, and it works pretty good. It's a decent match for a nice, just economical setup. It'll definitely help with EGTs. It'll help a little bit with spool up on otherwise a stock turbo, but it basically just replaces the compressor wheel and the turbine wheel, and it comes with a 360-degree thrust bearing rebuild kit. So it's a nice thing if you're going to pull the turbo out, and that's the cheapest. So basically, right here, for under $2,000, we can double or pretty close to double the stock horsepower, get much better, all around daily driving power. I would say probably on that setup we could make, 250, 260 somewhere in there horsepower. Probably I'd say 250. On this setup without EGT issues, I would imagine. It's a truck-to-truck thing. That's why I really can't answer that well. But like I said earlier, the turbo is really going to determine a lot of that. But if you're looking for a cheap way to just get a good upgrade, this works pretty good. And it's definitely a massive upgrade in power. Doesn't hurt reliability a lot as long as you're not really crazy with it. And the other thing that's nice is it'll run on stock tuning. So let's say... the nice thing with this setup is that you can just take the chip out, so it's not going to be a variable in trying to diagnose the problem with it. So that is one thing that's nice on the old body style trucks with these. But basically, yeah, this is what we offer here, and I'm just showing you the packages because it's based on stuff we recommend to go together. But you can select, however you want to get your tuning and everything for it. If you're going to go above that, I honestly, the KC Stock Plus charger is the same thing as basically a stock turbo with their balanced assembly in it. It's just new. And so for under $1,000, if you're looking to replace it for stage one injectors or stock injectors, their Stock Plus turbo it's a nice charger. But if you're looking to get the absolute most with still really good spool up and everything from, either stage ones or stage 1.5 injectors, like up to like a 180/30, then the KC Stage 1 Turbo, which is their 6370, it was what I would upgrade to. So all in all, you'd be into that about $2,600. You would want to start looking at doing like a fuel system and possibly a high pressure oil pump, although I don't recommend changing the high pressure oil pump until you decide, till you see what it looks like once you get the injectors in it. So I would wait and see, if it's going to maintain injection pressure, in a race tune, before I would go out and buy a pump for it. But yeah, so basically that's the stage one setup. That's like the getting started setup for an OBS. And probably I'll go ahead and cover one more here, one step up from this. And then we'll make other videos for different trucks and different power levels and different budgets and all that. So I'm going to jump over here to the stage 1.5 package. And again, this is all stuff. This is stuff that you can configure manually with, other brands, whatever. But it's just to give you an idea of like what it takes to get, to any certain goal and kind of what we recommend to go along with them. So in this one, the stage 1.5 package for the OBS trucks, it's the PHP Hydra with tuning. So it's the chip and the tuning. It's stage 1.5 injectors, and the stage 1.5 means it's anything from a 160/30 to a 180/30. So it's a 160cc or 180cc injector, sometimes a 175cc injector with a 30% over nozzle. And so it's kind of the next step up to getting that capacity out versus the stage 1 injectors that have a smaller stock nozzle, which are nice for keeping EGTs down and all that, but they do limit how much power you can make. So upgrading the nozzle is the next way to make power over that. One thing I'll point out is, realistically, everybody talks about, you'll read on the forums and stuff that like a 160 and a 180 are going to run different, or a 180 is smokier with the same nozzle and all that. None of that is true. The truth is, a properly built 160/30 or a 175/30 or a 180/30 or a 200/30 if it was an A-code injector, they're all going to make basically the exact same power. They're going to run almost exactly the same. There's exceptions to that, where like if you have a much higher capacity with a smaller nozzle like 30%, and you run pulse width way out, that you could make more power. I don't recommend doing that anyway, so I don't think that makes a difference. I won't run 5.5 milliseconds pulse width. That's ridiculous. For the stage 1.5, the only time the stage 1.5 package or a stage 1.5 injector is going to make sense on an old body style over a stage 1 injector is if you have if you're going to do a fuel system, because you're going to be fuel system limited with stage 1 injectors. So upgrading them isn't going to get you any better off in that regard. You can definitely run them. Again, you can run these injectors on a bone stock truck turned down. If you're not running it in a race tune, you're not demanding everything out of them. But if you're looking to actually spend the extra money it takes to get a little bit bigger injector, get the bigger nozzle, then you are going to want to have an electric fuel system. So take your pick there. But base price, this is the same thing. It comes with like the bare minimum of what you would need to run it decently, is what this kit was designed for. So it has KC's balance assembly in it again, the injectors and the tuning. But here's where I highly, highly recommend, if you're going to do a turbo upgrade, one of two options. Either if you already have it, let's say you already have an intercooler kit, you're trying to stay on the budget side, but you do want a new turbo, you plan on building your own intercooler kit or something like that. The KC Stage 1, which is their 6370 on the OBS trucks, that is a fantastic route to go. Okay. That being said, if you don't have an intercooler yet, you want to get a kit that includes it, and the turbo and everything else, definitely look at doing a T4 kit on OBS trucks, because the performance wise is a properly sized T4 charger, which in this case, like anything from like a S363, a couple people are starting to run those now with smaller injectors for towing with a little bit smaller turbine housing, and they work great. We've had really good luck with just a S364.5 SXE with the 73 millimeter turbine in a 0.91 housing, turbine housing. That setup, it's almost unbeatable. And the nice thing is it is more expensive, but it comes with intercooler piping and a down pipe, your up pipes, your mounting, everything you need to get started with your intercooler and your turbo and everything. It's all in one kit. And so it switches to a different style that you can look into. But if you're looking to get the absolute best that comes with everything, definitely look at doing a T4 kit. And in this case, I would recommend like an S360 4.5 turbo. It's a good match. And then, like I said, if you already have an intercooler, you want to stay with a drop-in or whatever, then the best match for a drop-in is going to be KC's Stage 1, their 6370. Again, I would run probably a 0.84 housing on it if it's either a manual or you tow a lot. If you plan on playing more, it's an automatic, then I would probably do the 1.0 turbine housing. But again, you can kind of like Full Force Diesel, Unlimited Diesel, Rosewood. Those are all great injector brands. And right now, I think that's probably the most. Those are the only ones I'd really recommend for the most part, unless you wanted to buy brand new. In which case, the Alliant AC code injectors, which is a Stage 1, are new. And they're more expensive. You're going to pay about $2,000 for a set, but they are absolutely the best quality you're going to get. So if you're the kind of person who wants to just replace them with new on your OBS truck, you're looking for a bump in power when you do it, and you want the same reliability you had stock, then the Alliant AC codes they're going to be the way to go. So that's the basics here. I guess we can kind of touch on transmission stuff a little bit. We'll cover more horsepower stuff later. This is just going to be a basic, and I do want feedback on it, because if you guys like this kind of a format, just sitting down talking about the parts and like certain goals or budgets or whatever, I'd be happy to do more of them. It's hard to find like what information to put out there and how, because there's so many different ways that questions can be asked, or a different reason somebody would be asking that requires a different answer, but usually it's going to come back to the same sort of result. So anyway, transmission stuff. Like I said earlier, on an automatic, if it's healthy, if you drop the pin, there's not a ton of material in it, then a lot of times you can get away with it running either one of these setups with just like an accumulator body, like in a modified accumulator body, or adding your own shift kit, transgo kit, whatever. In the converters. For torque converters, you can get away with a fairly inexpensive torque converter as long as it's got like just a well-built single disc with a billet front cover, so you don't have the warping issues with heat, which is what a billet torque converter usually means anyway, just so you guys know. It's the front cover, it's the hub where the friction applies when the converter is locked. And the stock ones, it's stamped steel, and what will happen is it'll warp from heat, and then it can't get good contact, and that's what causes them to slip and make heat. So anyway, it's kind of a compounding problem. But a lot of times you can get away with just doing something like that. So if you're gonna end up getting a transmission replacement for this kind of a power level, then I would look at doing something like there's lots of good transmission builders out there for, that can do a good job on this sort of a power level. The problem is there's just as many, I think, probably that aren't good. And what I would look for is, if you know somebody who it can do a good job, here's what I would say. Count on spending around like $3,000 to $4,000 on the transmission and torque converter if you're going to buy one, even at this power level. Because frankly, if you're spending less than that, you're not getting a build that is made for this. So just keep that in mind. You're not getting a good quality build that has what you would need in general for less than $3,000. I would say higher than that, probably closer to $3,500 if you're getting a converter with it. So that's a good kind of a rule of thumb to know if you're dealing with somebody's offering you, I'll build you a 500 horsepower transmission for $1,500. Bullshit. They're not doing that. So lies. See transmissions here. Just show you guys a couple things. Like we deal with Sam Wise a lot. Fantastic. His Stage 1, Chris Garrett A1 transmission stage 1. They're both good. Warren Diesels, what do they call their lower end one? Their bottom, there we go. Stock Plus, that's what it was. That's a good transmission. Again, look at this. We're at the $3,800 for that one. The A1's $4,000. Diesel site, that's not right because you have to choose a converter with that. We'll look at that in a second. Samwise stage 1, we're looking at about $3,400. They're going to be kind of similar. And then you can just pick out like different stuff about it here. But I would look for, you can even look at our site to kind of reference it. Obviously don't try to copy people's builds, and not everything is going to be in here because they don't want people copying all the work that they do, what they found over at the time. But you need to have a lot of the stuff that's covered here in a transmission if you're getting it built to handle these levels, because this is stuff that's been done by people for a decade, like just on these types of transmissions, and they're really good. So just showing you guys some options, and to say like count on spending that kind of money if you want something that's good. And I'll show you the diesel site one here. Diesel site's great. The only thing I would keep in mind with diesel site is I think they build fantastic transmissions. They're really fast about getting the transmissions done. I'm sorry you have to hear that fan too. I'll find a better setup once I have a webcam. I don't have one except on this laptop, and anyway. The thing with diesel sites is, and it's going to be around the same price. Legendary converter now up to $3,500. So, and that's without anything. If we're going to add a billet input, we're going to be about $37. So anyway, that gets you in that range. But the thing with their transmissions is they add clutches to, and then mechanically keep the coast clutch locked. And what that means is like you're downshifting, especially in tuning where the converter stays locked, or even when it comes unlocked, the downshift out of overdrive is going to be a lot firmer. It's going to be very aggressive. And it'll decel the truck better using like the transmission for, braking. But just so you know about that, like that is one thing. Like if you're one of those people that likes a smooth experience, first of all, you're really not going to get a stock smooth experience that'll hold the kind of power, like 350 horsepower or whatever out of a 7.3 reliably. And that's kind of what this build is geared towards, like just a mild upgrade that's reliable and cost effective. But yeah, just keep that in mind for that. Like if you like having the transmission as a brake, they were great. Overdrive in third, it'll do that. But if you like it to be softer, then maybe consider not doing the diesel site just for that reason. But other than that, they're fantastic. So, BTS, John Woods, Twisted, I've heard really good things about. Samwise, Chris Garrett at A1, Warren Diesel site. There's others out there too. Those are some of the popular ones that we know do a fantastic job on Ford, like E4OD and 4R100 builds, and I would recommend looking at something like that. But again, reference the prices. That's the first thing to look at. So if you're not paying that kind of money, you're not getting a transmission that's going to handle it really reliably. But I think that's it for today. We'll do another video later. Definitely leave a comment, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook or whatever. Just something to say like, I like the format, didn't like the format, cover better questions, whatever. I want to hear about it because I'm putting this together for you guys. And if you don't like it, then, well, I'm doing it wrong. So anyway, I appreciate you guys, and we'll be back again later.